The topic of this podcast is, what does it mean to let go? This is one that strikes close to home, and it's one that I celebrate on a very conscious level because there are opportunities that occur in life in which you make a commitment and you find out exactly how strong that commitment is. And one of the things that I made a commitment to was learning how to let go of my personal self. And the best way to understand how I'm progressing in that area is to have life show up in a certain way to where I can demonstrate if I'm able to let things go and accept what is and detach from outcome. Most recently, I had an opportunity to do just that. So many of you heard me reference the practice, which is this well-being intervention or ritual that I do every single day. That includes 5 exercises. The 5 exercises are reading one page out of the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living, expressing gratitude for 5 things that are happening in my life recently, as well as doing some form of exercise, 2 to 3 minutes of exercise, nothing crazy, listening to an inspiring podcast or faith-based talk, no news. And lastly, letting the other people know that who I'm doing the well-being practice with, that I've completed the well-being practice for that day, at least the exercise portion of it. But the way to really find out if your practice is strong, if any of that stuff that you did for that 10 or 15 minutes earlier is actually effective, is to let life show up and you demonstrate the principle. So for example, acceptance. So most recently, I had to demonstrate a principle as well as a commitment of letting go. So with the well-being practice, I started it at Mayo Clinic after using it with myself for many years. And I felt confident that if you open yourself up to it, it could have a similar effect on your life, which is helping you cultivate inner peace, experience more joy, and serving others. And so in doing this at Mayo Clinic, we decided to do a research study on it to see what the efficacy was of this well-being practice on healthcare professionals. The results were incredibly promising. We saw significant improvement across all well-being measures, which includes emotional intelligence, professional satisfaction, reduced stress and burnout, as well as, surprisingly, a reduction in medical errors. So we've taken this, and the next step, after you do research and you find that there's some efficacy to it, the next step is to see if you can write a research article on it and have it published. So we're in that stage right now. What I didn't understand was who is first author, who's second author, and who the other authors are. So first author is like the number one person who is going to be given credit for the research. And in this case, my understanding is that, I might be first author, which for me would be nice since this is the first published research that I've done. Well, one of the leaders who I work with and respect deeply, who's been instrumental in my career, she had an idea of someone else being the first author, and it was a medical school student. And this medical school student was going to be responsible for writing the manuscript. And so we came up with another plan, which was we're going to also do an abstract and a poster presentation, or at least submit for one. And if that was successful and we were awarded an opportunity to present at a conference, then the medical school student would be the first author on that endeavor. I would be second author. And then when it came to the actual research study and paper, I would be the first author on that. Well, a couple of weeks ago, we're in a meeting, the 3 of us, and the leader announced that it was going to be that the medical school student was going to be the first author on both. And so because of my practice, I was able to stay rooted and observe my mind having a problem with this new news. And I just very thoughtfully just stay calm and peaceful and just watch the activity going on inside, and making sure that I did not take that on, that I had a choice. And I very thoughtfully asked, whether or not this was this was indeed the way that it was going to be. And I also mentioned the previous agreement that we had, that I would be first author on the research paper and the medical student would be first author on the abstract and poster presentation. And they said, yeah, that was the initial agreement, but now it's going to be different. And I just said, okay, I accept it. And so the meeting ended, and that was the end of it. But it kept like weighing on me, or my ego, whatever you want to call it. So whenever those things happen, I don't suppress it. What I do is I try to work through it on my own by just really applying the practice of what does letting go really mean, as well as making sure that I am truly detached from outcome. If that doesn't work, then the next thing that I do, but that normally works, but if it doesn't, I contact some people that I trust. Now, these are people that are also doing a well-being practice. They're on a similar path of working on themselves so they can be their best self. And so I reached out to them, and they thought about what I said. They thought that my well-being practice was very strong. And at the same time, that I could go back and have a clarifying conversation with the leader about what the initial agreement was. And so I talked to several people. They all agreed that I should go back and talk to the leader. And so that's what I did. And so, but before I did it, I took a few days because I wanted to really make sure that my ego was not what was prompting me to do this. I wanted to make sure that I was doing this and that I was that you can do both, that you can have a constructive conversation while also being attached from outcome. Eckhart Tolle gives a great example of this, is that when you go to a restaurant and you order hot soup and they bring you cold soup, it's okay to ask for or to say, hey, listen, do you have warm soup? I ordered hot soup. And if they say, no, we only have cold soup, then you accept the cold soup. And in this case, I was going back to get some clarity on it, but only after I was sure that I could be detached from outcome. So I went back and had another conversation with the leader, a private conversation, and she acknowledged that it was a mistake on her part. And she went on to apologize several times about this and the impact that it had on me. And she actually said, well, Keith, you handled it so well. I said, yes, I used my practice. So I'm so glad you have a practice, but I wish you didn't have to use it on me. So we got like a little chuckle on that. But the point is that I was letting go while also seeking some clarity. And you can do both. But the way that you really know that you let go is that you're able to accept the outcome and detach from it being a certain way after everything is said and done.